What's up, guys? This is another video. If you haven't read the title, this is a review of the first two episodes of Velma, a terrible fucking show. I'm doing this audio style because why the fuck not? Mark did one for Last of Us, which we both watched, but he recorded the review because he's the guy who really was big into Last of Us. I played it, but he is the guy for that show to review. But we're both going to talk about it on a podcast soon. But this is my thoughts on the Velma trailer anyway. Or not the trailer, the show. The first two episodes. This show's bad. And it's not even like a good kind of bad. It's like just a bad kind of show. If you don't know, I'm a big Scooby-Doo fan. I have 90% of the animated films that they've released on DVD. I've watched all the TV shows, all the movies. I own a lot of it on DVD or Blu-ray. I saw Scoob in theaters. I'm a real big Scooby-Doo fan, right? And I do like the Harley Quinn show. I didn't think I was going to like it. I don't like the voice cast of Harley in that show, but once I watched it, I got accustomed to that show, and that show's good, right? This show is very much the same art style, the same studio, I think, animation that did the Harley Quinn show, right? That show at least has good writing and good character development and good jokes, right? This show has the polar opposite of that. It is a woke show. It is poor writing, poor comedy, poor Scooby-Doo. It's like they took everything that was good about Scooby-Doo and ripped it out and made this soulless shell. Much like other people on YouTube are saying, I know you've probably seen them. I think there's some good things on the show, but there's 99% terrible shit in this show. I mean, how can you get away with so much shit in a show and not have such a big problem? Some things I would like to talk about. There's a lot of race swaps, as in like their color of their skin, their sexuality swaps as well, which is not something as big for Scooby-Doo because it's almost like that is like apparent in all the versions of Scooby-Doo where they could be gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual, which is not a big deal to me. But in this, it just makes it like not even good. They don't even do it in a good way. Scooby is not in the show at all, not even referenced once. I don't know, maybe by the end of this show, maybe Scooby shows up, but I mean, Scooby was with Shaggy since they were kids in 99% of the incarnations of Scooby-Doo, and it's weird that this is the situation where he's not in it, or not even referenced. Some other things are referenced throughout the show, just not Scooby at all. But let's start with some of the things I took notes while I was watching, because I knew, like, once I started watching, I was like, oh my god, I need to write this down. So this might make me a second. Daphne is Asian, obviously. That isn't a bad thing. I don't think that is a gripe on the show. It just makes me wonder why. And they do make a joke about it, about her having red hair. Why? Like, you didn't have to make her Asian. That's fine. But it doesn't hurt the character, doesn't help the character. But it does show a few things. One, Daphne Blake's supposed to be rich. Or at least she's supposed to have, like, money in some way, shape, or form. And in this show, she's technically broke. And she's, quote-unquote, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the show, selling drugs. She is a candy woman, or a candy man. The idea of what real-world Candyman is, not a horror version Candyman, like a drug dealer. And that was a dumb thing. She was also adopted by two lesbians as her moms, which is something that isn't part of her character in any of the incarnations. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it doesn't work in the sense that you still didn't have her being Daphne Blake, like this known character. And I know that's probably something they're setting up in the show, but it didn't work here so far. They hammer on Fred being white very much and just hit white people throughout this whole show, which, if you don't know, I'm white, Mark is Mexican, or Hispanic, I guess. But we both agreed, and so do a few other people in my circle of friends, of mixed races, which I'm not saying, oh, I have one Asian friend or one black friend, like blah, blah, blah. But it's more of just the fact that they hit white people so hard. If this was the flip side of this coin and the writers were white guys hitting on minorities, making fun of all the minorities, I feel like this show would be, like, they would be canceled. and the fact that it doesn't work without this way is just to tell you how times are. But they hit Fred real hard. They say he has a small penis throughout the show multiple times. That he is a pathetic white guy, rich kid. He has a creepy sex fan. Those are just a few to name. Shaggy is a simp for Velma, apparently, which is something that's never been part of the character. He's liked Velma in some incarnations of the character, and in comics, and most notably in Mystery Incorporated, but he didn't simp that hard. This show makes him seem like he's just following a woman around, because that's all he wants, and that's not the character. The character is not, and they don't even call him Shaggy, they call him Norville, mostly. They do get parts of the character correct. Norville is one of the better characters written out of the main Mystery Inc. group. I don't care that he's black, but in this situation, it's weird. His dad's white, so that means his mother must be black, or he's adopted, right? So that makes you wonder a few questions. But the character they got generally correct, besides him simping over Velma, which is kind of dumb. Velma constantly makes fun of straight people throughout the show. It's almost like that is very much a goal of like, oh, you can't be straight. There's the show makes fun of adults who watch cartoons, this is the show named at adults. Don't understand that joke. Right after making a joke about 420, which Shaggy not understanding 420 and 420 culture, that is kind of funny. That was a cool little thing that they did, where he's not for 420. The show makes fun of white people, like I said, constantly. They made Fred look like Hitler, which they try to make fun of, where everybody looks like Hitler nowadays. We try to make out people to look like Hitler. Well, that could be a good social commentary in a context. In this, with everything else in the show, it's almost like you're hammering down on Fred even more. And that's a real big issue. The writing of the story of Velma, her mother's missing, which could have been a good idea. The baseline concept of, like, Velma's mother's been missing, that's cool. And the mystery behind that, as well as, she thinks it's because of her that her mother's missing. And the anxiety and the panic attacks and things, the hallucinations that she gets, could have been cool. That could have been a very useful tool in their arsenal, but it doesn't lead anywhere. Before I go too far, at the beginning of the episode, it opens up with a bunch of girls in the showers. The Daphne character, which I couldn't tell it was Daphne at first because it had a towel on her head, which is supposed to be a reveal, it was talking about the social commentary, why does all the pilots have more sexy gore, things like that, which is that is a good social commentary, I'm not gonna lie. But the idea that, they're in high school, that's kind of weird, that you're showing these girls pretty much naked in a shower, being kids underage. That is kind of gross. And the context of, like, and they do a couple pedophile things throughout the first two episodes, and you'll know them, trust me, when you see them and you hear them. And then they raise this like a red flag of the writers and the people who brought those jokes up. Not necessarily the people in the cast, but definitely the people who wrote those jokes, whoever they may have been, whether it was a cast member or a writer. That was just an alarming thing. I think if they would have done this as like, they are college level, where they are 18, 19-year-olds, seniors in high school, where they're all adults. Shameless does a lot of that, and so does the Skins does a lot of the minor things, and I never really understood those either, but in those shows. I do like the Skins. The Skins is pretty good. Shameless is okay. My stepsister watches that, but like the idea of the characters being underage and the social pedophile commentary on the show is kind of alarming. I just wanted to talk about that, and maybe you feel differently of the way I see those jokes, but none of them land. None of them made me laugh. There's one joke in the show that made me laugh, and like actually laugh, and I'll get to that at the end. But like, it's so bland, it's so soulless, in that all the characters, and they get Mystery Inc. so wrong, where none of them are friends. Velma is very much an unlikable character. I think their goal is to make her likable by the end, but the fact that she is unlikable now, where she hammers on everybody else around her. She's not likable to anybody. She's mean. You wouldn't want to be friends with this character, and you wouldn't want to be friends with Velma or Fred or Daphne. The only character that really seems like a good person is Shaggy or Norville, and that's a very interesting concept of what do you do with these characters, and they're not likable. Not like the Harley Quinn show where Poison Ivy's very likable, Clayface is very likable, Harley very likable, even Batman, Joker, Robins are very much, even though they're the antagonists of that show are very fun. This show, like, nobody's fun to look at, no fun to talk. A lot of the good jokes or visual things in the background, the animators' commentary are funny. I mean, you get a lot of references to Scooby-Doo. It's the posters, the villains that they caught in the old series, which is kind of trying to wink at old fans, which could have been good if you had a good show baseline, but you don't. So there's that. That's a big issue in my opinion. And then there's also the idea that we're stupid, like the Scooby-Doo fans. This isn't for us. It seems like this was pitched as a different show, but they knew it couldn't get greenlit. So what they did was go forth and made it a Scooby-Doo project to get it greenlit. I think this show would have not got as much hate if it was just a different show. If it wasn't a Scooby-Doo, skin to it or a cover to it. I don't think a lot of people would have cared about the show too much either. I think it would have just been bland. It wouldn't have gotten greenlit at all, or it would have gotten one season of like 5 episodes or something. So I get that. I'm not gonna knock them for trying, because they knew that was gonna happen, especially since this was being made during COVID, probably the animation stuff and writing. So I mean, so there's that. Mindy Kaling, being one of the producers of one of the main people in this show, the voice of Velma. I like Mindy Kaling in certain projects she's been in, but she's never been like my cup of tea as in comedy, and I think that shows very vividly in the way she actually views people in this show, like what her true things she thinks are definitely are very, very laid out in this show, I think. And that could be wrong of me to assume, but it's just my thoughts of like, this is how she really thinks people perceive things and how things should be. And I don't think that's true. I think Scooby-Doo, the base formula can be changed, and it has been changed before, and it's been done pretty well for adults and kids alike with the Scooby-Doo live-action movies, the first two, Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo Monsters Unleashed. Those two were really good. I wish we'd get another one of that trilogy, because that would be a great encapsulation of the characters in that show, or of the show, and making it into live action. So I mean, there's that. They brought a lot of voice actors, new talent for new characters, but then they also bring old Scooby-Doo voice actors in to voice different characters in the show, and I think they're going to continue to do that in other episodes as well. And there's a lot of Easter eggs. There was some Easter eggs I did like was like the one of the good things about Shaggy, going into Shaggy, is he streams himself trying different foods, and I thought that's a cool idea for Shaggy, something new to the character where this is what he loves to do. Food is what he likes to do, and he streams himself eating foods, and that was just really cool. And some of the screen names, he had like a Scrappy username and a Hex Girls fan username, which is cool because I'm a big fan of the Hex Girls. I bought a shirt somewhere in my dirty clothes over there in my room. That Hex Girls, that means that some of the people, at least the animation team, watches Scooby-Doo and knows Scooby-Doo, especially with Hex Girls, Scrappy, and a few other the Easter eggs in the background of the show that you might not catch. So there's that. So I mean, there's somebody. Why isn't anybody telling them like, hey, you should, do this and do that, and then help the producers, right, with a lot of the things in that show. So the overall first 2 episodes, the mystery kind of is bland. There's nothing really fun, entertaining about it. There's no mystery to it. It's kind of just like what's going on. It's just randomized. There's two classmates that you don't really get to know very well, they die. Which I think if you did in the first episode, you could have had, the one that you didn't know, first death, get to know one of the characters in that first episode, and that character dies at the end of the first episode or at the beginning of the second episode. And there's one thing I will say. You can't defend Riverdale a lot with the, it's not I like Riverdale. Riverdale's a fun show, but I understand why people don't like it. But there's a thing in that show that they could have brought in that show, which is the mystery and the overarching theme. I think if you would have brought, the murder mystery aspect of Riverdale into this show and make this show a little bit like Riverdale, but also really funny, with, the Harley Quinn aspect to it, you could have had a really good, because the mystery is, is the thing about Mystery Inc. or Scooby-Doo that you would want, especially Velma being the smartest. You could have done a lot of cool, fun stuff with that. I think that was the point. And if they would have done, a Riverdale, dark Riverdale type thing with Scooby-Doo, our Afterlife with Archie comic did very good with Archie, they could have done a Afterlife with Scooby-Doo kind of thing as a show, and I think that's where Scooby-Doo could have been this is the new reinvention of Scooby-Doo, a dark take on the world in animation. They've done it with Scooby Apocalypse, they've done it with a couple other different versions of Scooby-Doo. I think if you would have done a Riverdale-esque Scooby-Doo show, murder involved, R-rated, some light nudity, you could have done really good. And maybe make Velma the center character, but it's kind of like a rotating door of all the other Scooby-Doo mainstays and old characters you haven't seen in a while. And the idea of Velma doesn't know if she's straight or gay could have played a factor, and her race doesn't matter too much in this show. I mean, that's one thing you could have done, I don't care that the skin tone is different for Velma. I think it's just when you change 10, 20 different characters, adding these bi, gay, black, white, Indian, Middle Eastern, etc. characters, that's where it gets so noticeable, and it's on purpose, and that's what makes people like it. You could have done a slow nudge at the door, and evolved it over time. I think if you kept Shaggy White, had Mindy Kaling's Velma still the character it is, with the Middle Eastern descent. I think you have Fred still be white. You can have Daphne be Asian, and do it that way, and slowly, bring in all these other characters and change slight things about the show. And that's what I would have done with the Velma show, is have this Riverdale spin to it, and have that kind of inclusion, but not everything has to be inclusive, and have that dark humor, because I love dark humor. And I think that's the way I would have done that. But the fact that they didn't do that in those first two episodes, and they haven't even attempted to solve the mystery, and the delusions, the hallucinations that Velma has is almost just a reason to slow down the plot. And I will go into this big part of the story, where, Velma and Daphne kiss. They do the lesbian thing. They have a moment, a zing, kind of like in Hotel Transylvania, where they're oh shit, wow, this is a spark, which works. That can work for Daphne and Velma. They can be both lesbian, and that is not a big deal. I think Daphne does belong with Fred in the end, but I think it works for different iterations. You can do a Daphne and a Velma together, or a Fred and a Daphne, or a Fred and a Velma, or a Shaggy and a Velma, or Shaggy and a Daphne. It all works, and they've proven that throughout the different seasons of where the different versions of them hang out together. So that's not the problem. But the way they do it in the show, it's bland. It's not even built good. They used to be best friends, this and that, and it's just not good. The gore in the show is not good. It makes no sense. It doesn't drive a plot. It is just a shock factor. And they could have done it with a purpose, the deaths of characters, deaths, and building the mystery, and people getting hurt, a supernatural type of hurt, from the show Supernatural, or a Game of Thrones type of hurt. They could have done stuff like that, and that would have been the preferred method. But they do it for both. They do it for shock value, and they do it for dumb laugh, and that could work. But it didn't, and it's just a whole hollow show, and I don't know why that they couldn't make it work, and I think they can. you get the right writer, right fan of Scooby-Doo product who has experience in the murder mystery story with like the serialized cop drama or the serialized formula of Scooby-Doo. You could make that magic. You can make a Riverdale Afterlife with Archie plot and make it great. And that's what makes me mad. And the fact that I'm such a big Scooby-Doo fan, there's no Scooby in the show at all, not even a reference to him. Just the unlikability of all the characters involved. And that just makes me mad. I'm going to continue to watch the other episodes and see what happens, but I think I know where this is going to go, and I'm going to continue. It's going to make you mad farther and farther and farther again you go. Comparatively, look at all the other great shows that are coming out right now. Last of Us was the first episode was really good. The Wednesday show, which I am going to do a video on eventually. I finished it a while back, but I had stuff happen in December. But good shows are coming out, enjoyable shows, fun shows. And then this show, which if you ask Mark, I was like, I'm going to keep an open mind about it. He already didn't want to have a shit to do with the show before it even dropped. I think it was the trailer and then the casting. He didn't like. From what I remember, he could tell me if I'm wrong, but I was like, okay, this could be interesting. It could be like the Harley Quinn show. It could be a hidden miss, right? It could be if you don't watch it, you missed out. But it's just not a show where you missed out. No, Mark's heard about the rating of it, and he was like, you have to watch it now, because this is worse than Dragon Ball Evolution, which I saw in theaters, with my mother, actually, as a child. And I was talking to my mom yesterday about the Velma show, and how it got lower rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and on IMDb than that. And she's like, whoa, that mean a Dragon Ball movie? So yeah, that movie, it's worse than that one. Because my mom even thought the Dragon Ball movie was bad. So that was that. And so me and him are going to talk about this show, and we're also going to talk about The Last of Us in a podcast soon. But I'm going to get to... But soon I can do... we're going to talk about that. But I'm going to get to my favorite, funniest thing in the episode. So Fred gets framed for murder, or he, accidentally puts himself up for murder, I guess, is the more funnier question. How he gets there, you can watch the show and find out. It's dumb. But he gets put in jail at the end of the episode, right? And he gets into the jail, and if you don't know, the show treats Fred like he's a child, and how he is pampered, which could be good, useful. He also is anger management, right? And that's a cool thing they explored in the live-action films as well, or not live anger management, but he's a tough persona where he's struggling with his macho-ness, but he's also soft. And they do that in this show too. But back to when he's in jail. He gets to jail, and he's who are you? And the guy in his cellmate is called the Thief, or something like that, and he goes, I'm the thief, but I got, what'd you come in here for? Oh, thieving. And I thought that was funny, very much a D&D thing. And he goes, oh, cool, ooh, and then Fred goes, ooh, bunk beds. He goes, ooh, and then he goes up to the bunk bed, and he goes, lifties, for the guy to lift him up into the top bunk. And I thought that was an unintentional funny thing out of the whole show that they expected laughs at. That was the one that got me, because that was a good joke. It was stupid, but it was funny, and I thought that was funny. That's the only thing that I laughed at, and everything else was just made me cringe, or made me go, what is going on? What is this? This is dumb. Most of it. Except for I was looking at a lot of the Easter eggs throughout the show, which were very much more interesting than the actual fucking story. But the animation's beautiful in the show, man. They have a really good animation team. That's the sad part, is that animation team is talented as fuck. The beautiful backdrops, the backgrounds that look old school, but old school painted, but are actually the new school way they're animated is really beautiful. And I want this team to be able to do some cool shit. To be able to imagine if these guys they didn't paint the characters that way, and they started doing characters a different way, and you have this serious anime style fucking show. that they, with the skills that they have, they can do it. That's the sad thing about the animation team. I think they have the ability to do really good work, and this show kind of shows that maybe we shouldn't fucking trust them. But like the animation's beautiful, and I'm interested to see what they're gonna do next. What do you think? I'd love to know what you guys think of the Velma show. I'm gonna do a few things coming forward, but I think I'm gonna reel all the episodes. I don't know if I'm gonna do consecutively every single episode, or if I'm gonna just wait till it's finished. But definitely gonna talk about it more, because being a Scooby-Doo fan, this is like a slap in the face to most of us fans. And I know me watching it is giving them more power. And apparently they're getting into season 2, which I'm fucking surprised. So I'd love to know your thoughts and what you think of the show. What am I wrong about? What do you think I should go back and give it a different look, a different lens? I went into it with an open mind, and I didn't like it, ultimately. But I would love to know if you think I should give a different outlook, and give me your ideas of that show, because I didn't like it, not at all. But maybe there's some good qualities about the show that could have been better if I looked at it from your point of view, or a different point of view. I'm just looking at it from my personal view, being a Scooby-Doo fan. I'm white, obviously straight, kind of. I'm pretty much just love whoever loves me, if I like who I like. But like, I don't know, it's hard to say where everything is going for this show, and why they made it, because it's not good. But let me know in the comments below what you think of the show. I would love to know. I'm gonna try my best to do more videos. My name's Scotty. The other person on the channel is Mark. We try to do more, as much as we can. I'll see you in another video, maybe another review, trailer, reaction, whatever it might be. I'm seeing Legend of Vox Machina, first 3 episodes in theaters, which is fucking cool, later this week, so maybe it'll be that. I'll see you soon, guys. Welcome to Bloodhaven Gaming, out.